And if it's your first time here, I'm going to go into a little bit of an explanation as to what a libertarian is. That way you can have an understanding of what libertarianism means. That's the first slide. Go to the next slide. Now, if you've ever done sales before, there's something called an elevator pitch. Now, what an elevator pitch is, in case you don't know, is if somebody asks you a question about what you do with your company or your business, that you're able to give them a response that would last about the time of an elevator. Well, for the Libertarian Party, we have an elevator pitch too. It's different for everybody. This is not one set ruling or anything, but this is just my individual take upon it. Libertarians believe in and pursue personal freedom while maintaining personal responsibility. The Libertarian Party itself serves a much larger pro-liberty community with the specific mission of electing libertarians to public office. And I say that specifically. The Libertarian Party is here to get people elected to public office. That's why you form a political party. Libertarians strongly oppose any government interfering in their personal, family, and business decisions. Essentially, we believe all Americans should be free to live their lives as they see fit, as long as they do no harm to another. That's why the only thing that you have to sign to be in the Libertarian Party is the non-aggression principle. And what the non-aggression principle states is that I will not aggress upon anybody for political or social gains. In a nutshell, we're advocates for smaller government, lower taxes, more freedom, but we mean it. Because you hear that before. You've heard other parties talk about lower taxes, smaller government, and more freedom. And what you have seen, what you're able to see in the past couple of years, is that parties that were major organizations that used to make this claim are being shown for the hypocrites that they are. Because as you can see with the latest debt ceiling debate, as you can see with what's going on up there after the 2010 election cycle, that the wrong people were elected for the right reasons in 2010. And the public now, more than ever before, is looking for someone else. They're looking to be left alone, and they're looking for a party that is going to do that. That's what we are. We just have to get the word out to them. And for our own faults, we have not done nearly as good of a job of getting that done. But things are changing. Next one. Are libertarians liberal or conservatives? Another question that you get all the time. Now, I would say we're neither and we're both. Libertarians are neither. Unlike liberals or conservatives, libertarians advocate a high degree of both personal and economic liberty. For example, libertarians advocate freedom in economic matters, so lowering taxes is a good idea. Slashing bureaucratic regulations slashing bureaucratic regulations is a good idea. And charitable rather than government, and this is a very important part. Charitable rather than government welfare. It's not that we don't want people to be taken care of. There will be those less fortunate in this country. It will happen. It is a matter, it is going to happen. But what we have to understand is that the government wastes so much money in trying to take care of people, where private charities, churches, institutions out there can do the job and do it much better than you can ever be done by government. Because people care about their own money. But libertarians are also socially tolerant. We won't demand laws or restrictions on other people who we may not agree with because of personal actions or lifestyles. This does not mean, and this is something that a lot of times libertarians are characterized as. When you guys are a bunch of godless heathens and you don't care what people do and you just want people to just do whatever they want to do in life. That's not necessarily true. What is true is that we don't want government involvement as long as they're not infringing on the rights of another. And a lot of times the solutions to many of these problems are actually to get the government out of the way. Marriage is a great example of this. Is that a lot of times you have the debate back and forth going, we should allow gay marriage? No, we shouldn't allow gay marriage. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The real answer is that who is the government to tell you who you're allowed to marry and who you're not? As a matter of fact, I think it actually breaks the first commandment. Because here's the thing, it's whatever you believe, not what the government tells you to believe. That's the answer. And that we as a society are making those determinations every day. We're doing it ourselves. But we can't force our beliefs on someone else. No one wants to do that. Think of us as a group of people that have a live and live mentality with a balanced checkbook. In a sense, libertarians borrow from both sides and come up with a logical and consistent whole. But without the exceptions and broken promises of Republicans and Democrat politicians. That's why we call ourselves the party of principle. And it's also why you have people from Republicans and Democrats coming to the Libertarian Party. Because freedom is popular and it can bring everyone together. Now, just like any other political party, we have leadership. But there's some great examples that you can see as to how the leadership was formed into why this party is different. We'll start with the National Party. You have a national party, you have a state party, and then you have the county affiliates. On the national side, you have Jeffrey Neal that's the chair, Lee Wrights that's the vice chair, the treasurer is Tim Hagan, David Blah is the secretary, Vicki Kirkland, right there, is the Region 2 rep, Wes Benedict is the executive director, and Carla Howe is the political director. Now, in the last convention, that top was not what it was supposed to be. It was a different set of people that were running for office. But libertarians at the national conventions have something unique that's unique to the Libertarian Party, and it's called none of the above. That means if the grassroots of our organization does not like the leadership that's being presented, then we can replace all of that leadership. Try to do that in the Democrat and Republican parties and find out what happens to you. You'll get thrown out. You'll have things put in front of your face. You won't be able to do things about it. But the Libertarian Party is different. That's what makes us good, is that if we have a problem with our leadership, we can replace our leadership. And NOTA is an option that you can do at the national convention, at the state convention, and at the county convention. Now, where there were some people, when they heard about what happened at national, it was like, oh, those libertarians again, always causing chaos. I disagree. I would much rather have our way than be scripted on who was going to win and who was going to lose, and not actually count the delegates on the floor. Because that's what happened at the RNC and at the DNC. On the statewide level, you have Dana Moxley Cummings as chair, I'm vice chair, Danielle's treasurer, Lynn House is the secretary, and the region rep here is Carl Dickey. One thing about Dana Moxley Cummings was a libertarian for how long?
She's been over a year now.
Over a year now.
Yeah.
Well, was not a libertarian for a long period of time, but won the chair. What does that mean? That means that us as a political organization wants to bring in new people. Not only do we want to bring in new people, but if you have the ability and wanting to lead, then you're able to do that. And that's a good thing, because we need more people into this party. We need a ton of people into this party. If you're not a member of this party, I highly suggest that you seriously consider it. But what I would do first is you go to lpf.org and you take a look at the platform. If you read over our platform and you like what it has to say, if you agree with us, I'd say maybe 70, 80% of it, then join the party. Because we are on the move, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a great day. Next day. Now, one of the other things that you hear a lot of times, hey, there's no libertarians in public office. Well, when it comes to the State House and the State Senate and Congress and the U.S. Senate and the Governor's office, you would be correct. However, if you look at much of the smaller offices, we actually do have libertarians that are getting elected. And what we need to do as a party is to win those seats and move up from there. It is a step process. Now, don't get me wrong, I ran for the U.S. Senate in 2010. So, again, I didn't necessarily follow the lead on that one, but if I had to do over again, maybe I'd run for a smaller office, even though I did have a lot of fun when I was running for the U.S. Senate. And I've been proven right, considering I was up against Rubio, and we've seen what a disaster he's been. But you do have a lot of libertarians around there. Matter of fact, you'll see this in a later slide, but I'm going to mention it now anyway. Lee County just had something very exciting happen. You want to talk about government shutdowns? I'll give you a good one. The Lee County had the Soil and Water Board. If you've never heard of these things before, there's soil and water boards in some of the counties around the state of Florida. Well, the libertarians ended up getting the majority of the board from the Soil and Water Board, and they disbanded it. They shut it down. It saved the taxpayers about $200,000 a year. Is that right?
No. The first year they returned $200,000 to the taxpayers. The budget itself has about $2 million, so now $2 million will not be assessed to the people in Lee County any longer.
Yes. That's what we did. Now, you can say, but you guys just voted all yourselves out of a job. That's true, but I'd rather do that. That's what we can do, and that's what we can do on those smaller seats. You have mosquito control boards, you have a lot of these different smaller boards. We need to get activated and motivated in these things and start tearing this thing down piece by piece. Next slide. There are current libertarians that are running for office. You do have a lot of different candidates that are on there, but there also is something that we have in the Libertarian Party when it comes to vetting. So you do not see all of the candidates that are on here just yet. In order for a libertarian, and this is where the counties and the states, or the county party and the state parties have a little bit different. Is that county parties, we don't pull people if you're not like school boards or things like that, unless the county actually asks us to put them on there. Then on the statewide level is where we have people that are running like for governor or for Congress or for the Senate or something along those lines. Now we vet those guys. Now, and this is one thing that you have a little bit of controversy in within the Libertarian Party when it comes to vetting. So we'll see if it continues at the next convention. If you feel strongly about it either way, whether you like the vetting, whether you don't like the vetting, make sure you show up at convention to make your voices heard, because that's where the changes are happening. Next slide. Committees. The state party has committees, and those committees are the ones that do the work. Not loudmouths like me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I travel the state and I do as much as I can, but the real work is being done by the committees. Now, I'm going to give you just a little bit of information on each one of the committees. I'm not going to waste too much time on this. But you have the Activism Committee, which is chaired by Steve Carithers. Now, in all reality, the county affiliates are doing their own activism, and you're not really having anybody in the Activism Committee telling people what activism that they need to take. Because libertarians, once again, aren't going to be told what to do. You tell them that, they're going to ask if they're being detained or if they're free to go. But the Activism Committee, what we would like to try to do with the Activism Committee is that have representatives from all the counties that belong to the committee so we can facilitate a communication of what's going on. Because there may be some exciting things happening in Broward, and we need to make sure that we know about it so we can get the word out to everybody. The next one is the Candidate Committee. Now, right now, the Candidate Committee does not have a chair due to a possible conflict of interest. The former chair, which was Danielle, has stepped down from that committee because she's also working for another governor campaign, and there more than likely will be a primary for this seat. And we think it would be a little bit improper to have somebody that's the campaign manager for one chairing that committee. So if you think we need more candidates and you want to help with that, we are looking for somebody to be the chair. There's about, how many people are in that committee?
There's 12.
There's 12 that are currently in that committee. If you want more information on that, let me know at the end of this.
Well, now 11.
Now 11. There. The next one's the Communication Committee. It's actually chaired by Macy John back there. This is the most important committee that we have within the Libertarian Party of Florida. It's the biggest one too. And they are working very, very hard to keep the process going of communicating with people. But you got to remember is that there's a difference between the county affiliate and the state party. The state party communicates in a certain way, and they don't want to infringe on the county affiliates. It's on the county affiliates to handle a lot of their own business of what they're doing internally. The next one's the Legislative Review Committee. Now this is a great committee, and I know Danielle's going to talk about it, but I'm going to say something first before she does. A lot of times the argument that you'll hear against the Libertarian Party of Florida, or against third parties in general, or even going MPA or anything, is that you're taking yourself out of the game. You are not involved actively in politics if you step out of the game. And you are not a Democrat or Republican going to rec meetings or deck meetings or things like that. Nothing could be further from the truth. I'll tell you why. Last year, or was it the year before? No, it was last year.
Which bill are you talking
Common
about?
Core.
Oh, Common